Let's talk about Gene Simmons, because you also got to work on the Kiss Demon characters, which was a really cool project. And I'm going to set that up for people that may have not heard. I've talked about this many times. But the idea behind my idea originally behind getting into business with Gene Simmons and Kiss is Gene Simmons was a big wrestling fan. He understood the power of wrestling. He certainly saw the merchandising opportunities that existed in wrestling, probably because of his familiarity with WWE, which was making a fortune in licensing and merchandising. But the idea was that we would enter into a partnership with Gene Simmons where we were collaborating on these Kiss Demon characters, and then we were going to share in the revenue from the merchandise that came from it. So tell me about the creative process, because we're working with Gene Simmons. He was involved in the creative on this stuff. Tell me about your first. In fact, you told me the other day that you and I had our first meeting with Gene Simmons at his house in Hollywood, I believe.
Yep. And just a side note, when I'm in the hotel before I get there, I'm literally dry heaving in the bathroom because I'm so nervous, because I'm like going to see Gene Simmons and you're picking me up in a limo or whatever, town car. I call my brother and my brother's like, why are you so nervous? You're basically these guys are paying you to do what you do. And then he kind of calmed me down, and then I went downstairs and brushed my teeth and went down and got in the car with you. And we drive up to Hollywood Hills. I think this is shit I remember, because it's not, you're talking about a special effects guy from Marietta, and I'm doing all this special. This is another high level fucking person. Like he's like Hogan, like this guy's legitimate.
That's Gene Simmons.
Yeah, he's multi-millionaire, everything else. And I listened to Kiss music. I was more of a Metallica guy, but I like the songs and shit, but it was just surreal. So I'm in the car, we get up there, meet him, he comes out of his house, meet his wife and whatever else. And then we go into a room, he starts showing me stuff like the real props from Runaway, which is like the Tom Selleck movie he was a bad guy in. He had the real animatronic metal bugs and shit on tables and all his movie stuff. He starts showing us all kinds of shit, like tennis shoes he's developing. You can tell he's a marketing dude because his shit's everywhere. And then at one point he hands me a Kiss condom, and I make a comment as a joke, funny. I said, does it glow in the dark? And the dude whips out a little pad, flips it open, and writes down basically my idea, just like that. And then he puts it away. And then we continue talking, and we eventually move into.
So did we know, were there ever Kiss glow-in-the-dark condoms? Did they ever make the market?
Well, I also think, too, that his original Kiss coffins that he eventually made was probably a riff on the thing I made here later on. But you don't know where those ideas come from. Because it's just like having a conversation going, that looked good in blue or red. And then you go eventually one day and you make a red one. So you can't take credit for those ideas. It's like you're creatively brainstorming, and you got to accept that. You can't say, I came up with that, or he might have simulated thought, just like Sting. I show him shit, and then he's riffing off his face makeup. I might have not done his exact makeup, but I provided creative elements to simulate the thought.
So let's go back to Gene Simmons. What was your impression of him after you walked out of that meeting?
I thought he was really like good at marketing, but there's things that happened in the meeting that were nuanced that you may not pick up on. We're in the meeting, we see all the crap in that room and all his Kiss shit. We go and sit down. We start having this conversation about the Kiss thing, or you do, and you're across from him. I'm sitting next to him. You get up to take phone calls and you say, you have this, to me. And I'm now like, oh, I'm fucked. Because Eric's literally just walking off to take phone calls. And I'm sitting there with him and I'm like, I better make sure I got my big boy pants on for this. And I start showing him pictures of wrestlers, and we eventually talk about all the sizes of guys and what he wants to see. And previous to getting there, you had paid me to hire a trainer for that Apache Dave American Indian guy to train him, to make him buff looking. And I paid the Mark Wallace guy to get that guy in shape. We did test makeups, which I have pictures of, on Dale Torborg, Chris Canyon, and Apache Dave. And that's what we were going to show him, those at least Polaroids and pictures, and what I have pictures of that for a potential demon character. Also, prior to that, I had this idea in my head, and I was watching a movie called The Shadow with Alec Baldwin, and there's a scene in the movie where the Kublai Khan guy is in a museum and his Tutankhamun silver-based dragon tomb opens. And at the time, you have Blockbuster Video and Hollywood Video by my house. I had got the Hollywood Video. I slowed it down of the thing, and I put the thing in my bag, and I took it with me to Gene Simmons' house. So it's queued up, VHS tape. And when I'm describing all this shit and showing him pictures, this is not all my concept art for Demons, it's in the very beginning. I got a little panicky when Eric left because now I'm fucking in the hot seat. So I tell him about this idea and he's like, I'm really not understanding what you're talking about, Andre. I'm like, dude, I got this video. Can I show you this thing? Because I'm thinking now I don't have mood boards. I only got my portfolios. So we walk in another room. There's an armoire. We put the fucking thing in. He gets what I'm trying to do with that scene, that sequence of the silver coffins and all the shit. And then he starts to buy into the idea. And then I pitch him on all that stuff. And then when it's time to leave, he wants us to go to the E3 convention and walk around. But Eric's got a lot of shit going on. And he wants to eat sushi or something. And we kind of we're like, he wants to blow off and get out of there, which Eric doesn't see him probably as a rock star in the way I was perceiving it. It's more like, this guy's a little kooky, an artist, so like put another kooky artist guy with him and fucking go deal with your shit and work it out. That's kind of what it went down to. But there's things that happen with Gene Simmons. Like I remember everything when he dropped a piece of food on the floor and he picked it up and you see crayon drawings on his refrigerator, just like a normal human.
What's his Shannon
Tweed.
Shannon Tweed. We're in there because it was breakfast time when we got there, from what I remember. And she comes in and she's cooking breakfast. She's got a long, like button-down shirt on, maybe jeans.
Her hair was in curlers.
She looked like she just walked out of bed. She's not wearing any pants. She's down there in her underwear, and she's hot. I mean, even with her hair in curlers, it's kind of like, this is awkward. I'm sitting here with
like a robe or something. And
it was an awkward meeting.
But also Paul Stanley's wife came by during the meeting to try to give him a bunch of shit to autograph. There was kids jumping on a fucking trampoline. There's like other shit going on
it's
beyond.
Not what you would think from a rock star's house.
And when you start seeing him like dropping food and other things and crayon, you start like realizing this is just a fucking dude with kids, and like you kind of start seeing through the curtain a little bit. But also when we left, he did something that you don't realize, but he gave me a Kiss Tree book. He gave Eric a pillow, like that said Kiss on it. That was like a fucking thing you put on your couch or get at Spencer's. And eventually he sent me bass axe guitar to use for molding for this or to use for stuff. And he gave Eric big plush figures. He showed me in the office. It's like, he didn't know what to do with them. It's like, he got these big toys. But when we left, Gene stopped me and he pulled out another book, which is his phone book. And he turned it and he pointed to two names in it. And you don't know who they are, but he pointed to Rick Baker and Rob Bottin, which are the highest level special effects people that did The Howling and American Werewolf. And that was like his personal phone book and written in pencil. And he just pointed and did that to me. And to me, what he was doing was kind of like saying, you better not fuck up. Like in the nicest way possible when he showed me that. And I was just like, well, that wasn't unnecessary, but I don't remember Rick Baker being a clothing and set design, but he still knew I was an effects guy. And somehow he showed me those names because I told him maybe I was a makeup effects or whatever. And what that's basically saying is you're not shit and I can replace you in 5 seconds. And I was like, wow. And then we went out and then that was it for the meetings. And the rest of my meetings were on the telephone with him via fax machine where I'd send him stuff. And at one point I had saved a message from him where it's like he's calling my fax answering machine saying, Andre, this is Gene Simmons. And what he's talking about is in one of my drawings, he wanted more holes in the side of the pants to see more skin because he's like, I want to see skin. So I made the change, sent the drawings back, and then we got off to building it. And then Brian Adams comes here, we do the full body mold. We choose Brian Adams because he was very adamant that he didn't want Dale and those other guys because he felt they were all small. He wanted a big presence walking down the hallway, kind of like the Spawn cartoon books that were put out, where the demon character is monolithic, like bigger than life human being is what he wanted to represent his character. And ultimately we had talked about eventually doing a second character for tag team and 2 women that were going to be in the women's tag team. So you'd have the 4 members of KISS. It never metastasized into that, but it just was the one guy. And eventually just like the demon character, and it premiered backstage of '99 in Vegas, and they played God of Thunder live, and then the hydraulics and shit went off, and the stage set I designed with the production team and the coffins and opened up. And this isn't the real one. This is one copy out of the molds that are long gone of just the front doors that uncut on this. There's no mechanics or anything in it. It's the same metal finish. And I used that metal finishing technique on all the, to tell you how cool Eric was back then, I told him, Gene Simmons wanted nickel silver color. And I found this company called Luminor Composite Metals, and I convinced Eric that I needed to go to LA to get the training for Luminor so I could use it on this job. And I literally flew to LA. They put me up for a few days. I took the technical training in Temecula, California, and I learned on how to metal coat. And I came back here and I started using it on all my shit. I sculpted the coffins in clay here. We made the molds. I body cast Bryan Adams. And the reason I body cast a lot of these guys is to basically make a custom dressmaking form. And in movies, we body cast and head cast people to have a version of them there when they're not, so you can make all the stuff like prosthetics. But we had the budget, so we made body molds of them. So Bryan didn't need to be here for the fittings. I could just make it all on his suits. And eventually he didn't want to play the part. And I think it's the same thing where he fit the part physically. I put his contacts in backstage. I painted his face for him. I was there backstage. I had pictures with the band. It was a very cool moment for me because it was like, this is fucking insane because I'm watching God of Thunder. I'm watching my shit all happen on the end of Nitro.
And you had breakfast with Gene Simmons and his wife and his kids.
Yeah, at the house. And Eric was there for like all that stuff. But that's not normal stuff you talk about because it's like you're not reporting it because once again, this is NDA shit. You're dealing with creating the version of his look. I created the coffin designs. And then when I tried to tell him, I pitched it as Iron Maiden because that's what I was designing around. He didn't like that because that was the name of the competitor band of his era. So I came up with the name Resurrection Chamber and he was fine with that. And said, don't call it that. I changed all my artwork to say Resurrection Chamber because I was thinking this would become a toy and just like all the Spawn toys. And then but with Bryan Adams, once again, he's known as who he is. I don't think he liked the character gimmick, even though he liked Kiss in the band. That's why when Dale Torborg took over the character, he was better suited because he was a Kiss fan. He still plays them today. He has toys made and everything.
Well, he and Gene are still friends.
Yeah, they're still, like I see Dale and I've given him armor pieces and and I have parts of the belt right there and the arm greaves from that job. And Dale's come by here and I've given him free stuff like to make his character better, like the shoulder pads. But at the end of wrestling, when WCW closed, the hydraulic coffin, it's deeper, it has insane asylum padding and the hydraulic rigs, and the main costumes went missing. So they've gone, someone has them somewhere. And I think that stuff was all supposed to go to California Moving and Storage for Gene Simmons, or at the end, it never made it. And it's, I basically, if someone out there has it, which is a mystery of where that is. It's a full version of this, hydraulics, 2 feet deep, hydraulic platforms.
Well, that would be worth finding.
Trust me, I've heard people that might have had it, and I detective hunted that motherfucker and cannot find it. And 2 copies of the suit. And it wasn't the full suit. It was the 2 versions of the cape I did that used to leave inside his coffin, the armored suit.
SaveWithConrad.com.
Yeah, I'm Justin Gruffin from Knoxville, Tennessee. What got me to Save with Conrad was the 83 Weeks podcast. I really wasn't thinking about getting rid of any debt. I just wanted to cash out some equity in the house to do remodeling. But I did both, so that was pretty awesome. Worked out great. Redid the foyer, built pantry space, and there was little odds and ends when I first bought the house that I wanted to take care of, and we were able to take care of it. So, yeah, paid off 2 cars and some credit card debt, so probably all in all, getting $30,000 in that. And then I got some $30,000 more equity out of the house, and still plenty of equity left over. So payment's good. I lowered my interest rate. I'm in a much better spot than I was. Super easy. Everybody was great. Very, very awesome people. Francis and Steve were great to work with. They're awesome. Made it through a very easy, seamless experience. I'd probably say all in all, probably $1,000 a month at least. I'm gonna lowered my interest rate, especially the way the interest rates are right now, which is, that's amazing. I'm Justin Bruckman from Knoxville, Tennessee. I saved over $1,000 with SaveWithConrad.com, and I did a lot of renovations with that money as well.
That's number 212, non-equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.